Half Moon Bay Coastside Chamber of Commerce and Visitors Bureau. Welcome to, I don't know, somebody asked me tonight, probably my maybe 12th or 13th, considering it was every couple of years, etc. City Council Candidates Forum. I have 17 days left as your CEO of the Chamber of Commerce, but who's counting? Our new CEO of the Chamber of Commerce is right here, Crystalline Geet, so I would like to introduce her. I will be opening tonight, and then she will be closing. One of the benefits of, the outgoing. So first of all, the Half Moon Bay Coastside Chamber of Commerce and Visitors Bureau is happy that you have attended. We want to keep all voters informed, and that's why every time there is a council election, we bring you a forum so that you can write your questions down. We want to thank Ann Maley and the Half Moon Bay Library. This is the first time we're here, of course. I'm assuming that you have all taken a tour previous to this. If you haven't, you're really missing something, and you need to do it afterwards or tomorrow. We'd like to thank New Leaf Community Markets for supplying the cookies and the coffee for us tonight. We would like to thank Martin Anaya and the Pacifica TV for filming this. It will be aired on, I left that paper back there, Saturday, October 6th. Saturday, October 6th at 7 p.m. So, and you can also go to pacificcoast.tv and pick it up on their website. I'd like to introduce the candidates to you. Deborah Reddick, Virginia Trozen, did I pronounce that right? John Zabo, Robert Brownstone, and Deborah Penrose. So we thank you all, obviously, for attending. And we thank you for giving up a little piece of your life and running for election. We had a little glitch tonight. The library is new, and the city microphones did not sync with their system. So the library has ordered individual microphones, but tonight we're going to have a little glitch, and the microphone is going to have to be passed down. You've all gotten instructions on that, correct? Okay. We also want to thank the League of Women Voters. They always moderate all of our forums. The ladies that are here none of them live within the city limits. Most of you know Kathy Tyson. She is a longtime Coastsider, but she lives outside the city limits. She will be your moderator. We also have Kathy Wheeler. We have Mary Noriega, our timekeeper, and we have Margie Gator. So if you have a card and you have a question and have not already given it to the moderator, when you're finished with your question, writing it out, just hold it up and someone will come and take it from you. They will get it to Kathy, and Kathy will sort and put like questions together. I'm sure that she's going to explain a little bit more about the process in a minute. So thank you all for attending, and ask your questions so that you are well informed. And now, with no further ado, this is Kathy Tyson.
Thank you, Cherie. You have before you the 5 candidates for Half Moon Bay City Council. There are 3 open seats. So on November 6th, you will be voting for 3 out of these 5 candidates. Charisse already introduced them to you. You'll get to know them more as we go on through the evening. The way the ground rules work, each of the candidates will make a 3-minute opening statement. They have drawn numbers to see who goes first. Then there will be a question and answer period. Questions need to be written on a card. Each candidate will have 1 minute to answer the questions, and then we will go to a 2-minute closing. Okay. The ushers are Margie and Kathy. They have blank cards if you need them. And if, like Cherie said, just raise your hand and they'll come collect them. Also, we have a ground rule about audience behavior. No applause during the debate. After the forum is over, we will applaud all the candidates. Thank you for that. We will aim for a 9 o'clock conclusion. So with that, we will begin. The first candidate we will hear from is Deborah Ruddick.
Good evening. As I was considering running for re-election, I remembered a watershed moment for me from more than 20 years ago. At the time, several major residential subdivisions with hundreds of homes were in various stages before the Planning Commission, and we citizen activists, some of us like myself, relative newbies to town, were regularly showing up in force at public meetings to comment and oppose what we felt was poor planning. I read a quote in the newspaper from a powerful local personality nicknamed the Godmother. She said of us citizens, "They don't live here, they just sleep here," dismissing our claims to a say in the matter. What I perceived was that, on the one hand, she and the council were doubling down on a full-on bedroom community vision for Half Moon Bay, inviting new folks like myself and my family to move here, and on the other hand, sending the message that we were second-class citizens compared to the old-timers. One council member at a meeting actually ordered me to sit down and shut up. That was a wake-up call for me, shaping my outlook on how our local government should serve us and what it means to have and be in the community. I believe, as groundbreaking New York City planner Jane Jacobs opined, that we can create a community that serves us all, but only if all of us are involved in creating it. Tonight, I reassure you that you can count on my continued commitment to including all of you at our community table. This early experience also helped me settle on the kind of community I wanted. Not a bedroom community, not a tourist community, but an authentic community where we can safely engage each other in conversation that matter and even enjoy it. A welcoming community that takes and reflects pride in itself. A community that invests in the public realm, supporting our schools, library, parks, and a vibrant city center. A community that celebrates itself and we each other with our music and our art. A community where we look out for each other, however long we've lived here, and no matter what our differences. In short, I want a community where all of us who want to can live, work, and play here, and retire here, and stay here, and have a say in how we accomplish this. This is not an empty motto for me. This is my vision and mission that I offer to you. Thank you.
That was Deborah Ruddick. The next one we'll hear from is Virginia Terrison.
Good evening. I'm Virginia Terrison, and I'm running for City Council to advocate for all members of our community. Seniors, youth, Latinos, renters, homeowners, families, and single individuals who reside in Half Moon Bay. I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters and the Chamber of Commerce for hosting this in this fabulous library, which took great vision and fight to build. I've been exploring and learning from many visionaries and leaders in the Half Moon Bay community. Former mayors, city planners, school board reps, Latino committee, library people, Boys and Girls Club, residents, and those that live in adjoining communities. I've asked for their inputs to learn and get up to speed. I'm driven, and I approach new challenges with a zest and a desire to learn and understand the issues fully and use my business acumen to help us set forth plans that are achievable. I've lived on the coast twice. Once for 5 years in Pacifica, and I moved to Portola Valley, and I'm back. The coast beckoned me. I've been here for 6+ years. I was raised in Manhattan in a 2-bedroom apartment, rent-controlled apartment, and I shared a room with my brother growing up. I learned a lot living in a big city. I became street smart, and my parents instilled in me compassion and service for others. And like many of you, I've had hardships along the way. I've pinched pennies, I've worked multiple jobs during college, and and I took care of my parents before they both died of cancer. I've worked hard for everything I've achieved. I used those lessons growing up in a big city, and I worked at Ernst & Young, Morgan Stanley. I was the only woman managing director on the operating side, building a $1 billion division. Areas of interest for me are no on commercial marijuana, more affordable housing strategies for workers, seniors, and those in need of assistance, a better liaison to the local schools, no new large hotel and RV development, revitalize downtown to create more of a community vibe, better oversight for repairs and services, select road expansion for commuters for the weekday to solve the weekday commuter logjam, and improve coastal trail maintenance for bikers and walkers as well as the public parks. I look forward to answering your questions tonight and diving into these and other topics.
Thank you. Now we'll hear from John Zavo.
Good evening, my name is John Zavo, and I'm nervous as hell being up here in front of all you people. I've lived in Half Moon Bay for 53 years. I graduated from Half Moon Bay High School, where my only elected position was the student body president in 1969. After I got out of high school, I went to the United States Coast Guard, came home from the Coast Guard, and went to work for the phone company. At the time it was AT&T, Pacific Bell, whatever you call it, here in Half Moon Bay. I worked on undergrounding Main Street, all the utilities. There used to be telephone poles on Main Street. A lot of you might not know that. After that, for the last 15 years, I've worked for the Sewer Authority Mid-Coastside, where I clean your sewers. I'm the guy that go out and clean the sewers from. We go from Miramontes Point Road all the way to Montera. So for 45 years, I worked above and below the streets of Half Moon Bay. Chances are, if you had problems with phones or sewer problems, I could have been the guy that came to your house and fixed it. I hang out with Gordy at the Pumpkin Festival. I am a member of the Coastside Land Trust, Coastside Democrats, Southern Poverty Law Center, the ACLU, and the Human Rights Campaign. I see people of Half Moon Bay every day. I hear complaints from people about the streets are bad, the filth at the beaches, the garbage cans that are overflowing, and is anything done about it? If the city needs more public works work people, they should hire them. I don't know if you all know, we have 36 people work for the city. Only 4 work outside of City Hall. They're the ones that take care of all of downtown, or all of Half Moon Bay. One little people on the east side of the highway have a safe trail. Why do the residents of Half Moon Bay have to pay for the sidewalks in front of their houses? Why can't the city pay for that? How about your sewer laterals? I don't know if most of you know it, the sewer lateral from your house to the middle of the street is now yours, and you have to pay to have it fixed. The city has $26 million in sewer reserves, but still we, the people, have to pay for it. Oh, I got 1 minute left. Main Street Beautification Committee has tried but Main Street's a mess. You try walking from one end to the other, you count how many times you trip, hit your head on a tree or something. Why isn't Half Moon Bay taking care of downtown? We need downtown, that is what Half Moon Bay is. The shops on downtown, what draws people to it, what draws tourists to the coastside, which pays most of our bills. My fellow coastsiders, the city would do so much more for its residents if it wasn't spending so much time and money, 30 seconds, suing all the other communities on the coastside. Aren't we all in this together, a big coastside community? I know my run for public office here at the city council is a long shot, but so if you like what's going on in Half Moon Bay right now, stick with it. But if you don't, if you want something new, vote for a new city council. My name is John Zavo, and I'm here to serve you. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we will hear from Deborah Penrose.
Hi, I'm Deborah Penrose and running for re-election. I think I'm running on the platform that I want to continue the work that I've started already. One of the things that I've done in the city and changed in the city is the way the city operates with its citizens. I've been hearing complaints for years from people about they don't like this, they don't like that. What I decided to do was open up the conversation and have listening sessions. I did 4 of them this past year instead of having a one-day retreat where everybody in the community was invited to come in and talk about what it was that bothered them. When I first got on city council, I can remember our city manager saying, I don't respond to 5 city council members' direction. I respond to 3. The reason was that was what it took to get something passed in city council, was 3 votes out of 5. I had another city council member say to me, I was elected. I don't have to listen to the people anymore. They told me they liked me, so whatever I say is what's gonna go. Well, I don't believe in that. I think if I'm elected, I'm responsible to everyone in the community, not just the people that voted for me, but all of you, everybody. If you don't like my ideas, tell me about it. I'm happy to respond. I'm happy to try to fix things. I want to keep a community that is feeling like they are part of City Hall. And by that I mean people can walk into City Hall and speak to anybody in City Hall and say, this is bothering me, and have that person respond, not in 3 weeks, but today, tomorrow at the very latest, or send them where they can get the right answer. I think that kind of communication is critical. We are a town of volunteers. Why aren't the volunteers involved in running the city more? We have a town filled with people with millions of kinds of talent, and IT people, transportation people, people that work on streets, construction people, development people. They should have more of a voice in how our city runs, and that's the kind of city I want. I want a city where everybody participates, everybody feels like they're as useful and as well heard as anybody else. That's my aim, and I'm going to keep working toward it. I'm going to have a nice downtown. I want to work on getting our charrette back in here to look again at how we can revitalize our downtown businesses. I'm looking forward to working with the new chamber on that. And I want better liaison with the school district. I think we can spend more time with the school and have the school feel like they're more part of City Hall. I think we give out too few grants to our nonprofits. I'd like to triple what we give out. Lots of ideas.
Thank you. And our last candidate's opening statement will be Robert Brownstone.
Good evening. My name is Robert Brownstone. I'm running for City Council. First, thing to do is welcome everybody and sincerely thank you all for showing up. Part of participative democracy is showing up. And it's a Thursday night, and I see quite a few folks here, and I'm always happy to see that. So let me tell you a few reasons why I decided to run, speaking of participative democracy. About 2.5 years ago, my partner, better half, Suzanne, who's sitting up front here, we decided to participate in Half Moon Bay's inaugural NET program. Have any of you heard of that program, the NET program? Any of you participate in it? It was a great program, and it's designed, it's a 6-week program, 20 people per program, and invited Half Moon Bay residents to come and hear how city government works. So we had 4 meetings. Each meeting took place every couple of weeks. They provided a nice dinner, and we heard from all the members of city government and City Hall and all the staff, and including members of the city council. And it was very inspiring. NET stands for networking, engagement, and transformation. And after those 6 weeks, I felt I had a great opportunity to network and learn who all these people were in city government. And it was transformative for me personally. And the reason it was transformative was I felt that I got to establish a personal relationship with people. And whenever I opened up the Half Moon Bay Review and started reading articles again, I said, wow, I know who that person is. I've met that person. I felt that I actually feel that our city government is a terrific city government. And I'm not looking to replace everybody on the current city council. In fact, I feel I agree with a lot of the current city council, and I agree with what they're doing. I agree in terms of having participative democracy, stepping out, having community meetings, crowdsourcing all the great ideas that we have in our community. I spent a lot of time working in public service. I worked in federal government for 7 years, and I've been in the private sector where most of my job is called organizational effectiveness. And I worked in Silicon Valley for many years. I've lived on the coast for 10 years. So I'm here to serve. I bring a lot of expertise, and mostly I'm here to help everybody participate in our city government. Thank you for listening.
We're going to be doing a lot of mic passing tonight. Sorry about that. We now come to the question and answer part of our candidates forum. Questions should be addressed to all candidates, not to a specific candidate. Each of the candidates will have 1 minute to answer. Because of the microphone constraints, we will have to go down the row, but I'll change the order of who starts first. It's not the ideal way to do it, but hey, we work with what we've got, so we'll make it work. The first question, what do you see as the #1 problem facing Half Moon Bay? And we'll start with Debbie Revit.
The #1 problem, that's a tough one. I think there's two, and one is the shortage of housing types for a variety of different residents in our community, and we're working on that. The thing that causes the most inconvenience for people in the short term every day is traffic. So on the housing front, the city council just adopted a menu of options to get some projects started in the downtown area, close to services. And recently we passed an accessory dwelling unit ordinance or in-law unit ordinance that's going to make it easier for you to have people live in your house or in your backyard and incentivize that. For traffic, the city is finishing up design of major Highway 1 improvements that's going to improve the flow from south of town up to approximately Grand Avenue with signal improvements, lane improvements, and a trail along the east side to help people to get to Main Street.
Thank you. Virginia.
I think it's more affordable housing for seniors and for workers in the area and those needing assistance. In terms of building additional housing, great opportunities are infill within communities where there are lots available to have houses built. But more importantly, within the downtown spectrum, it would be nice to continue to build communities that are a blend of housing. The one thing you don't want to do for affordable housing is just have it be for low income. That tends to create ghettos or slums. It needs to be a balance of affordable housing, and those that need assistance, we can help with government assistance as well. But there can be a nice community vibe, walking to downtown, and as we revitalize downtown, that will help tremendously to enhance the value for merchants as well as residents.
Thank you. Mr. Zabo.
Call me John.
Okay.
I guess I'm just too simple-minded. I just see lots of little problems. Like I was saying before, the broken garbage cans, the trees that are breaking down on Main Street, pushing up our sidewalks, things like that. I just see that's a problem for all of us. Every time you walk on Main Street, you face that problem. I mean, I know we don't have, that's affordable housing. I don't know. We got to live in a town with $1.4 million median price. Hard to come up with affordable in a town like that. And so my main thing is just I do a lot of walking up and down Main Street, all over the place. I do half marathons and stuff. But go to Poplar Street on the weekends. the overflowing outhouses and all. That's a problem. You know, the garbage cans overflowing, then you don't see the garbage cans empty till Tuesday or Wednesday or something. That's a problem. There's a problem for our city that drives away tourists that pay a lot of our bills. And without the tourists, we'd be in trouble.
Thank you. Robert?
Thanks. You know, I think I'd like to talk a little more about affordable housing. And thanks, Virginia, for bringing up some of those points that you did. There's some points that I would also disagree with you on. So when we talk about affordable housing and let's say low-income housing, as some of you may have read in current Half Moon Bay Review, for a family of 4, low income is now defined as a family income of $117,000. I personally don't think that that's what defines slums and ghettos. So I think that we can have affordable housing for everyone. I think that the challenge is finding the space to build it and finding that right combination of public funding and even private funding. Sometimes, depending on the funding, there's a limit to which folks can have access to that housing. And I'm a strong advocate that folks who work here should be able to live here. We want our teachers to be able to work here and our other employees. Thanks.
Thank you. Deborah?
Yeah, I could just say ditto, because affordable housing, meaning workforce housing, to me, is the most significant issue. That's what I heard at the listening sessions. All 4 of them, they came back with the same answer. We can't afford to live here. We've got to be creative. One of the ways we can do it is change the zoning in our shopping centers, put housing above our retail. We can work with our ADU ordinance. One of the things we have to do is get our landlords together and talk to them about making it easier to rent to people with lower incomes, people with vouchers, make services available to them to make it easier for them to do it. But it is housing, housing, housing. Traffic is an issue, we're working on it, but housing is what everybody needs. They need that before they need better roads to drive on.
Okay, we pass the mic back over, so I can ask the next question. I know this is really awkward, but thank you. Okay. Housing is a big issue. One question is about building specifically senior housing. How would you address the problem of senior housing on the Coastside and the lack thereof? And this time we'll start with Virginia.
I just recently visited Kenyatta Cove, and I walked around that mobile home park, meeting with people and chatting with them about how they live and how affordable it is. I've heard of a hotel that wants to come in, the Hyatt, which would be adjacent to downtown. To me, that would be perfect location for affordable senior housing, because there's the ability and the proximity to be close to downtown within walking distance. And so a lovely community can be built there. There's sufficient space to have the scale to create a community center as well, so that there are available services, and we can think about shuttles as well to enable support to get people to the supermarket, whatever it need be, but try to minimize traffic.
Okay, thank you. John?
Okay. This might really sound crazy, but how about another mobile home park? They're affordable. They're cheaper than any stick-built place you can ever build. It's an idea. I mean, Kenyatta Cove is a nice place. You know, why not? I don't know where we put it, the same thing. Where do we put it? Where do we get the land? Where do we get land that people are willing to sell for cheap enough that we can then build affordable housing to let people live on it? That's always a problem here on the coast side, because the land is so expensive. I mean, that's why people buy these houses and tear them down, because the land, that 150 by 100-foot lot is worth more than most houses other places. That's what they're after, the lots. So anyway, yeah, it's a huge problem everywhere. San Francisco has a problem with it. I don't know. I really don't know what to do with affordable housing. This question always gets me.
Thank you. Robert?
Thanks. What I want to add on to this, We've all heard about some terrific initiatives currently going on in the city to make it easier to build accessory dwelling units, which is really a fancy way for redescribing in-law housing, in-law units. And I think if we can encourage more and more folks and incentivize their ability to build those units and encourage folks to rent those units out to seniors, that would be a huge, without having, that allows for not needing more space. Secondly, we do have a terrific senior housing development downtown, but there's one issue with that. A lot of the money was donated from Mid-Penn, and only 40% of those units have to be made available to local folks. 60% can be anybody from the county. So I think we need to maybe work on that formula a bit, maybe shift it to 60-40% for continued housing that we will build for seniors. Thanks.
I feel very strongly that we shouldn't be looking at ghettoizing our seniors. I like the idea that they have senior housing at the other end of Main Street. I think that's great. It bothers me that in Kenyatta Cove there aren't any kids running around. I would like to see us have affordable housing that is more communal in nature, where you've got single moms, where you've got teachers, where you've got restaurant workers, where you've got seniors. It's what our community is. Our community isn't little isolated spots of people, and I don't like seeing that. I don't like the ghettoization. I'd much rather see seniors mixed in with the general population. I think seniors like it better. One of the biggest complaints I've heard from my friends who've gone to live in senior communities is there are no children. It's quiet.
Thank you. Yes.
So I've spoken to a lot of seniors. I'm a senior myself. And one of the things I hear most often is the need for seniors, for our older residents, to downsize. They maybe have a 4-bedroom, 3-bath house. It's become too much. They don't want to take care of a yard. And they're looking for, market rate units, maybe a nice condo or apartment downtown near services. They don't have to get in their car and drive. So my impression is seniors fall on a spectrum of capabilities and levels of independence. So I think we need multiple kinds of housing. We need continuing care so that people can, gradually move into different levels of assistance. I think we could use some co-housing where folks who are still independent and maybe still work can share communal facilities with others and have assistance from others as needed. And then, adult mobile home parks. My parents lived in one. They had a great social life. They found it very rewarding. So I would entertain a new mobile home park as well.
Continuing on with the focus on seniors. Demand for senior services in Hackman Bay is at an all-time high. If elected, what would you do to make sure that seniors have the services they need to age with dignity? What support for seniors should the city provide? And this time we will start with John.
Okay, I get the tough one. Services for senior. We have the Coastside senior community that it's another one, I don't know. It's a tough one.
I would want to ensure that as seniors, and depending what their needs are, which can really, as Debbie mentioned, can really range depending on what people's needs are. But to make sure that seniors have access to everything else in the community that we all have access to. So making sure folks can get back and forth to activities in the area, make sure they can come to places like this library, probably provide more easy access to, if they're not living downtown, to downtown activities, health services, et cetera, and think about what those services are and how we can further fund them.
Yeah, we've got a wonderful group on the Coastside called a Village of the Coastside. It's an aging in place group. Judy Macias runs it. It's a group of volunteers who work with our elder population and doing social things, helping out when they're ill, driving them around, that kind of thing. What the city can do is help to fund such an organization. I think that it's our job to give to our nonprofits. Our nonprofits are capable of doing wonderful things, but they're always short of funds. So, if I were going to help seniors out, that's exactly where I'd go. I'd go to Judy Macias and give her a lot of money. I think the Adult Day Health Care Center is looking at the idea of having a, I forget what you call it, place where you go when you're ill, kind of a hospice, but not where you're ready to die, right? I have to stop.
So our population is increasingly older. They make up potentially the biggest share of folks in our town. And so I think the key is making sure that they have access to all of our public facilities, that our programs are accessible, that our buildings are accessible, and that, we can provide some funding as needed to match other levels of funding. The county, for instance, has cut way back at support of Meals on Wheels for the senior Coastsiders. There's an area where I think the city could step in with a local match. But other than that, I think we just have to make sure when we're considering any programs or facilities that they serve all segments of our population, including seniors, disabled, and others. So.
Thank you. Virginia.
I agree with Deborah in terms of, we have a lot of seniors here. Over 65 in age is over 2,000 people, and 45 and up is 1,000, 55 and up is 1,600. So we have a large community of people that are more mature in age. I'd like to see healthcare clinics, community services, and the library is a perfect example. It has over 1,000 people coming per day to this library for community type services, to play cards, to see movies, to rent books, videos. Coastside Seniors is another advocacy group that's helping them. And as I earlier mentioned, shuttle services. But this is why I like the seniors in a community where they can help each other and we can bring services to a larger population of people.
Thank you. The next question, and this time we'll start with Robert. How would you revitalize the downtown area?
Well, for me, revitalizing always has to do with something that looks green. Greenery. More parks, more access to parks downtown. And I love the idea of having maybe certain days, weekend days, where we can have urban malls block traffic off to the downtown. I'd like to see music, street musicians on the weekends. I'd like it to be a place that we here, not just tourists, really love to be and enjoy on a weekend or a nice summer day.
Yeah, we had a charrette come in the 90s that had a great plan for downtown. It was going to make Main Street one way and Parissima the other way. That, if you do that, if you get rid of half the cars, you make big wide bicycle lanes, and you can widen all the sidewalks. When the sidewalks are widened, people can walk on them. You can put cafe tables on them. You can have music in our parks. We can do a million things, but we've got to get together and come up with a plan. So my plan is to ask that San Luis Obispo group to come back again and revisit our downtown and take another look to see if we can't get it going. do something that'll make sense. I love the idea of closing the streets to pedestrians only on Sundays. I'd love to have our farmers market in our downtown and not over in Shoreline. So lots of ideas. None of them easy to do, but I think we can work on it.
Thank you. Why don't you pass it like that to John? No, you can keep it, John. Okay? Yep.
Okay.
So your ideas for revitalizing downtown.
My idea is revitalizing downtown. Yeah, like I was saying on my 1 minute job, I think we need new sidewalks. If nothing else, let's steam clean the entire downtown, clean the place up. That'd be a start. Then we could work on doing the construction. I agree completely with the closing downtown for a 1 weekend. Rock the Block works. I mean, we're packed on Rock the Block nights. So why don't we do it on the weekends? Get more people. I mean, people love going to towns where it's closed. No cars. You can just walk through town. They'd love it. Sidewalk. The restaurants could move right out into the streets, and we could have everybody could have a good time doing it. But there's lots of stuff we can do right now, like say the big white wall on Main and Kelly. Something could be done with that. Why don't we do something with that? That would, help. Things like that, like Robert with the park idea. You could build a park in that corner. Something. It's just that white wall for how many years now? We can get all that kind of stuff cleaned up.
Thank you. Virginia.
I love this one. I've looked at Redwood City and Santana Row, and what Santana Row and Redwood City have done is revitalize the downtown areas. And I'm not looking to bring in Banana Republic or the Gap. I'm looking to have residences above the merchants, speaking with the landlords to fill in the empty storefronts, which are a disaster for locals, for tourists, and for the merchants and restaurants that exist in the community today. I'm all about more walking and open space areas, weekend cafes, park improvements, and really just making it feel like a place where residents as well as tourists see activity, music, culture, and it's fun. And we've got the library adjacent to downtown. It can be just a phenomenal small town community feel.
Thank you. Yes.
I favor more housing downtown, more housing, more businesses, more fun. I think we need some well-tended public spaces, more than just Mac Dutra, scattered throughout town that are easily accessible without walking too far. I think we need high-speed internet that will support both residences and businesses downtown. As you know, it's pretty crappy right now. I'd like to take more events. We have concerts in the park 4 times a year, 5 times a year. Why not, once a month at least, or a couple times a month? I'd like to consolidate our parking, perhaps in a parking garage just off of Main Street. I don't want parking to dominate. I want it to be bicycle and walking friendly, but we do need parking someplace. And in general, I'd like to just marry more housing with business to create that demand for fun and create revenue that we can use to spend on it, make it even better. Clean it up for John.
Thank you. Our next question. As community members age, what can we do to enable their children and grandchildren, children who grew up in this community, to stay, live, and work here? And this time we'll start with Deborah, way down at the end.
Well, we've got to do 2 things. One is provide housing. I think the ADU ordinance is one way to do it. Infill housing is another way to do it, but I think we've got to build more workforce housing. The second approach that we have to take is with the wages that we pay. We've got to be paying a decent wage. It's time we got off our butts and started to work on that one. We've got people here living on $10 an hour. You can't do that. They need at least $15, and that's even $15 an hour is not enough to pay people. So I think if you give them a job here, and if you give them a place to live, they'll stay. The other thing you need to do is give them recreational activities that are going to make them want to stay here. So having a swimming pool, having a movie theater, those kinds of things make a lot of sense if you want to keep kids here.
Thank you. Robert.
Well, I agree with what's been said. I also feel that if you want young people to stay here, they need to feel as they grow up, they have relationships outside just their immediate family. So in addition to having some terrific activities for young people, we have a terrific Boys and Girls Club now, but I think we could have a lot more activities where we have adults mentoring young people. We have an incredible amount of expertise in this community, people in terms of different talents, careers, and the more you mentor people, the more they become loyal to the community and want to feel like they're a part of the community and feel, yeah, that's a great place we want to come back to. And a lot of emphasis on keeping our environment and our beaches clean. I'll say this a million times, we are guardians and stewards of this coast. Whether we like it or not, we live here, and if you want people to stay and come back like the old days, you want those beaches to be pristine.
Thank you. John, your thoughts?
Ever since I was a kid here in Half Moon Bay, everybody said, well, you could always go hunting and fishing. And what if you don't hunt and fish? And it's the same with a lot of our things. What if you don't play soccer or Little League? There's nothing for a kid to do here that never has been. When my daughter was in high school in the 80s, she got a petition going and got a couple thousand signatures on it to try to build a theater here. We used to have a theater here, and it closed down. So I mean, why can't we have another one? Something for kids to do. There is nothing for children to do around us. It's always, if you don't want to go to the beach, my idea is to build parks. I think the Beechwood property would be a great place to build a giant, just go play on parks. Big grassy park where parents can sit there and go, whoa, there's my kid running around in circles and just having fun. Maybe go climb a tree, do that kind of stuff. But no, we don't have parks like that. All our parks got to be geared for soccer, baseball, some kind of organized sport. We need some place where kids can just go be kids.
Thank you. Virginia.
Well, my career at Morgan Stanley was in early stage venture capital. And then I went out and raised $400 million in 3 venture funds. I think I know a lot about tech. It would be great to set up some incubators and technology startups here in Half Moon Bay. We can't obviously house a Google or a Facebook as they expand, but GoPro's been here, there's a drone company here. Local jobs are important for any young person. There needs to be upside potential, and these kids know how to start companies at a very young age, and they're funded by VCs. That's my world, I know it very well. There needs to be more robotics and STEM programs in the schools. We need to train our kids with new advanced technologies so that they can progress to being able to start software companies and the like. In fact, one of my neighbor's kids retrofitted a school bus, just did a phenomenal job with it, and he's going to go to Santa Cruz and just live out of his van and start a startup company.
So staying here means living here, and how does a young adult, afford to live here? So I read a really interesting article in the Mercury News recently about a startup company, if you will, that buys single-family homes, retrofits them, maybe add some bathrooms and bedrooms, and then match makes young adults in Silicon Valley to share a home together. And it actually mentors them on how to live together and how to take care of a house and all that sort of thing. So maybe we could do something like that here. Co-housing is another way where they can have their own place to live, but share communal facilities. So they get the piece of separate unit, but then they can share and they can network. I think that, apprenticeships in the high school, working with local businesses to develop some local jobs capacity is really important. Our San Mateo County Labor Council is really, really good at that, and I'd like us to explore that. So those are my ideas.
Thank you. Okay, our next question, traffic. Traffic is a huge problem on the coastside, both on city streets and on Highway 1 and 92. What would be some of your creative solutions to make the traffic flow better for all of us? And this time we'll start with Gabby.
So let's start with the morning commute. Years ago, we used to have a park and ride. And people would come to the park and ride and leave their cars and carpool to work. I think we need a park and ride. I think also we have a staffer at City Hall that's going to join a county task force in developing ride-share and carpool programs, which I think are really important. We might work with the school district on school buses, although some people have told me even if there were school buses, they wouldn't put their kids on them. But maybe that's an education that we can perform. One thing I noticed, there's hundreds and hundreds of kids that go to school over the hill to private schools. Why not identify those schools and come up with some carpool programs? So I think we have to work on the demand and getting people out of their cars, or at least sharing their cars. That's going to be a lot of work. We have to change behavior, but it's worth doing. Because even if we wanted to widen 92 to 4 lanes and started today, that's a lifetime. And we will not be here when that project is done. So we need some short-term solutions.
Thank you. Virginia?
Well, first and foremost for me, I'd like to try to solve one problem at a time. And to me, there's a weekday commute issue. And part of that is flowing off of 92, going northbound on Highway 1. I would immediately focus on working with Caltrans to widen that Highway 1, which is, just 2 lanes for a smidge, and then it, compresses into 1, and it's about an extra 45-minute commute for people living in that direction. And someone said to me, "Oh, you must live that way." And I said, "No, I didn't buy that way because of that challenge." So I like to tackle problems, see where we can address something and make a meaningful impact in a reasonable time frame, and not try to boil the ocean and tackle everything all at once. I'm not talking about mega highways on Highway 1 or on 92.
Thank you. John, your thoughts on traffic?
Oh, traffic. Traffic is big, yeah. When I moved here, it was 1,400 people. Now we're, 14,000? Because the road was built for 1,400. It was great in those days. You could go anywhere quick, but you can't anymore. My idea, I was just thinking the other day, was more traffic lights. That would take care of safe highway crossings for people from the east side to the west side to the east. Traffic lights, and then you have them timed, just like they do with the Great Highway. If you go 35, you never even get stopped. You just drive right through. It's a way to do it. It wouldn't take that much to throw up the lights. I mean, it's a lot less than building new lanes and everything else is what we really need. But then you start building new lanes. When I've been walking the streets talking to people, you say, like, widen the highway. Everybody go, oh, we don't want that because it will turn into Pacifica. So it's like, go either way. It's either going to be Pacifica or we got to have to come up with some other ideas. I don't know. That's my idea. Thank you.
Thank you. Robert?
I'm not sure we can pave our way out of our traffic issues. I've heard that from a lot of experts. I like the idea of some old school, I know we just did a traffic study and we'll soon be implementing that 92 highway on some suggestions to lessen some of that traffic, but I like some old school solutions too. When you see that stop sign coming down from the high school, right? Parents dropping off kids, people are trying to go this way and only allow people to go by their good graces coming off that stop sign. How about having a traffic control person? Remember that? Old school, right? Do some pilots during morning traffic and see how that works. I love the idea of school buses, but you have to incentivize kids to go on those buses. So make them cool buses. Let's do some pilots. Ask kids, what would make you go on a school bus? Let them paint the bus. Put cool music on the bus. Have some comedians show up once a week. Whatever it takes. When we had school buses, there were a hell of a lot less people, congesting the traffic in that morning commute.
Thank you. And Deborah, your thoughts?
Yeah, I can't beat that. That's great. A bus that's fun to be on. Wonderful. In addition to school busing, there is a program called Zoom, which they use over the hill for school kids. The drivers are vetted. The kids look it up on their iPhone, tell the driver where they want to go, and somebody's right there, picks them up and takes them. That's one thing we could institute here on the coast. We could get a Uber station here on the coast. I think shuttles is ultimately the better way to go, and I think that having a decent shuttle over the hill for some of the people that commute to the bigger Facebooks and eBays and Amazons over the hill from here might be a good idea. But I don't think there's an easy solution. I think it's going to be doing a bunch of things.
Thank you. Our next question has to do with traffic, but a little further north. There's been discussion about doing something to make the crossing safer at Gray Whale Cove. Would you favor an underpass or would you favor a stoplight? And this time we'll start with Virginia.
The thing I always worry about with underpasses and overpasses in California are earthquakes. And because of that risk and the moving ground that we have, I mean, if you walk on the trails, you'll see the dirt and it looks like, the ground is opening up. And we have severe issues with an unstable ground base. It makes it very difficult to build things underground.
Thank you, John.
I like the underground idea, and I think it's the way to go. And in fact, I think it's the way to go in some other spots along the coastside. We all drive north, there's that bump in Miramar where it goes up and over. Have any of you gone down? You can ride a bicycle through the drain pipe that's underneath there, and it's a bump. You put a bump, like where I live, Grandview Boulevard, put a bump. You got yourself a tunnel goes to the east side of the highway, or the west side of the highway. It's crazy, but it might work. I mean, it wouldn't take that much to do it, and if we try it. Surfers Beach, same thing. From the parking lot on the one side to the other. Put a bump. And you got a tunnel that goes to the beach. We don't, because I mean, that's one of the hugest stoppages we have on the coast is Surfers Beach on the weekends. And get rid of that just because a lot of it's just the people running back and forth. So yeah, I like tunnels.
Thank you. Robert.
Well, I probably want to gather a lot more data first on what the cost of each of these programs is and who has jurisdiction over these, whether it's Caltrans, the city. I mean, sometimes these are very mixed use areas. So before we jump into a solution, and before you start building a tunnel, figure out what we can pilot. Does a traffic light work? How would that work? You know what? There's always a cost to each solution, right? Each solution has a consequence. So are you willing to trade off some safety for some inconvenience around a traffic light? And that's where I think we participate in democracy. We need to ask folks, which choice do you think would work? These are the different choices, and these are the different consequences of each choice.
Yeah, Gray Whale Cove is not within the city's limits, although it's an area that we drive through. I don't like the idea of an underpass there because I don't think the land is very stable there, but I don't know that. We have to have engineers look at that to see how stable it would be. Even easier than that, and what might make more sense, are more pedestrian overpasses. You could have bike and ped paths from the high school to New Leaf. We could have them from Surfers Beach to the parking lot across the street there. I think pedestrian overpasses work really well, and that would be the solution I'd be looking at. Even though I know they're expensive, I think they're probably safer than doing something like a tunnel.
I don't know enough about it. It's outside of the city limits. I do know that my husband used to work as a geologist and described that whole area to me as sort of like unconsolidated Play-Doh. That when the moisture is gone, it kind of comes unglued, right? So we built a tunnel there, but it was a very expensive tunnel that had to be, way reinforced. So I think if that's, a plan, it needs to be looked at, super carefully. But by and large, I think you need to look at the cost benefit. Like how many people are being served, what's the cost, what's the, the life cycle of the project, how long will it be around? So I would need a lot more information, and I think we'd have to look at that very carefully.
All right. What will you do to assure that the Coastside gets its fair share of funds and services from both the county and the state? And this time we will start with John.
Okay, well, first we got to be nice to the county. We got to get any money from them or from the state. Yeah, we just have to, what projects we come up with have to be very stable and well engineered and well thought out. And then we go to counties and the state and or feds even try to get money out of them. And however that's done. I've never been on the city council before. I was high school president. I don't know how these things work. But I do whatever is necessary to get it done. And yeah, and I think I've used up all of my 30 seconds.
Okay, Robert.
Does anyone here in the room pay property tax? Any chance? Okay. So, you know, sometimes I think it's an emotional reaction, like, God, you know, I pay thousands of dollars of property tax. Where does that money go to? How come, you know, we don't get more services? Well, we actually only get 7%. 7% back. So if you're paying $10,000 in property tax, you get $700 worth back of services. You think about it, that might not really pay for a lot. So I love bringing it to the streets when necessary. I would personally rent a bus and bring all of us here to go to the next meeting at the county level and say, we would like more money, and here's why. So sometimes you just gotta show up and to get your voice heard.
Thank you. Deborah.
Yeah, I think our city's worked very hard on trying to collaborate with the county, especially in getting some money from them for projects that we have here. The library is a good example of that. Half of it is paid for by the county. The other thing the city has done that I think is vital, and I want to have them spend more time on it, is grant writing. There's a lot of money out there, state money, federal money, county money, that we're not getting because we're not writing grants for it. So you need a project, you have to come up with a project first, you have to have your plan written, and then you go ask for money. So I think we need to do more of that, and I think that's probably the most reasonable, practical solution to it.
Thank you. Why don't you let Debbie go? Thank you.
So actually, the city has done pretty well, both with the county and the state of California, especially with regards to transportation funding, and that would include like bike path and trail funding as well. So in the last 2 years alone, the city has won $9 million in grants for a variety of transportation and bike projects, and it has another 16 million that are currently being worked into agreements. So the money's been committed, but now we just need to get into agreements and get it into the city's bank account. And the city actually has a grant writer and lobbyist on the payroll to the tune of about $50,000 a year, who's also been representing the city in Sacramento and helping out with a lot of that transportation funding. And so each year we'll be looking at a menu of options that we can explore, especially for parks funding. Now that Prop 68 has passed, there's hundreds of millions of dollars available for parks. So that's the next piece to work on.
Thank you. Virginia.
Well, throughout my career, I've actually raised a lot of capital from third-party sources. The way you do it, and I've raised funds from CalPERS and public pension funds, the way you do it is you set up formal meetings, go with prepared presentations, discuss the projects that you have in mind, and meet with the right people in these organizations. I've spent my career having meetings, raising capital, and raising funds. Raising volunteer funds, raising $400 million in venture funds, and it takes a lot of effort. And you work with the city individual who's responsible for the grant writing, but you have to be well prepared, well documented, have a plan, understand what it is you're trying to achieve, setting goals and frameworks, and then presenting your case over and over.
This way. That is okay. The next question. What would you do to reduce turnover in the city manager position? People have tended to use it as a springboard on their career path. How could we get someone to stay here? And this time we will start with Robert.
Well, you have to give them an incentive to stay. Instead of a golden parachute to leave, you might want to have golden handcuffs to stay. I know we had some interesting issues around that. And make sure you have somebody, you know, I think a lot of it has to do with the vetting. You know, who's interviewing that person, and make sure they know how to get along with staff and know how to get along with city council members and give examples of how they've done that. We seem to, in the past, gotten caught up with a couple of folks where perhaps we didn't have enough information about some of their past experiences working as city managers. So, you know, you get what you carefully prepare for in terms of an interview, and talk to a lot of people who've worked with those folks and see if they're willing to make a long-term commitment of 3 to 5 years.
Thank you. Deborah?
Yeah, the average city manager in California stays in a city for 3 years, period. It's the way it works. That's the way their jobs go. Every time they get a new job, they get a pay raise. What we've been trying to do is get our city managers here to hire locally. We have a lot of talented people in town. We need to get more people involved in city government, start them at whatever level they start at, but hire locally. And that's the program that I think is going to work the best. I think if somebody lives here, they're much more likely to stay when they get a job here.
Thank you. John?
Well, I know I've talked to some, the city employees at City Hall, the city workers, they're real good. I like them. After the net training, I really got to like them a lot. They're good, hardworking people, but when I talk to them, I hit them all up to vote for me, and none of them can, because none of them work here. And along with the city manager also. I mean, none of them work here. Yeah, so if we keep hiring everybody, including the city manager, from wherever the heck they're coming from, of course we're going to have high turnover. It's been happening for years and years. We get the rejects from other cities. The city managers come here, and then we wonder why they leave when they could take their money and run. I mean, she's actually being paid, and she's not even here now anymore. So we paid her to leave, and she's still getting paid by Hackman Bay. So anyway, that's, hire locally. We got a lot of smart people in town. Let's get them to work here.
Virginia?
For me, I agree with hire local, interview well up front. I mean, you have to have alignment in terms of what they're expecting, how they like to work, and let them be in charge. I think the city council often overburdens our city workers with a lot of random thoughts. You have to keep people focused on projects and timelines and milestones, and not just keep throwing random things at city workers and expect them to be happy. Make them own the job, make them own and be responsible for their team, and give them competitive pay and motivation. When people are in charge and feel empowered, and it's their responsibility to get things done, don't overburden them as a city council. I think this is where it comes into play, that it's very important that we set plans, goals, and objectives, and let them function and do their jobs without micromanaging them.
Thank you. Yay.
So Deborah Penrose is right. The average length of stay for city managers in cities in California is about 3 years. And the reason is they're at-will employees who work for city councils, elected city council members, who change every 4 years. Actually, their terms staggered. Every 2 years you have a new city council election. So, if the city manager is not in sync with a new city council, usually, it's bye-bye time. I mean, that's just how it works. I see the job listings all the time. So my thinking is the key to a city manager staying and working with the community for a long time is having a stable city council and a stable community that works together. Thank you.
Okay, changing directions a bit. The city of Hackman Bay has had agricultural roots for 100 years or more. What will you do to help the local farmers and farm workers revitalize the Hackman Bay ag community? And this time we will start with Deborah Penrose. Let me just walk it down.
On the ballot in November are 5 measures. Everybody needs to vote on them. I would love to see us have nursery starter plants, cannabis plants in our greenhouses, in our existing footprint. If we can't do that, if the voters say no to that, then I think we have the opportunity to create some niche gardening here. We've got wonderful farms, Tomcat Farms, Nuevo Potrero, we've got Farmer John, we've got all sorts of farmers here who are totally capable of doing niche farming. There are the farm to table movement has gotten huge. I think we can do it. But I don't know what's gonna happen in November with the cannabis thing. That's up to the public. You'll all decide.
Thank you. Robert, your thoughts on agriculture?
I'd like to see Half Moon Bay area become a mecca for organic farming and do whatever we can to do to support that. I think it's a growing business. I think it's environmentally safe. And there's a huge expanding market all around the country, and helping our agricultural farmers business here wherever we can to find out where those markets are and figure out how they can convert to organic farming.
Thank you. John?
Yeah, I'm still checking out the whole idea of the nursery-sized plants and all for growing the cannabis and shipping them out of here. It's a good way that we can use up our greenhouses that no longer are full of flowers like they used to be. Other than that, I'm not sure if the city can help out in any other way. The actual city council can help. Can we subsidize farmers to keep growing, instead of selling their land for millions of dollars and moving out? I'm not sure if we can do that. I'm not sure if the community would put up with that. So saving our farms, I'd hate to see them go. I love driving down the road and seeing acres and acres of Brussels sprouts. And, that's just the way it's been forever. And it's the way it should stay, but we can't force the farmers to do it. If they're losing too much money, they're gonna wanna quit. And I know I wouldn't want the tough jobs.
Thank you. Virginia?
As you know from my opening remarks, I am opposed to commercial cannabis at all levels in Half Moon Bay. I've done extensive research on the 4 states that have had it for 5+ years, and it's done nothing positive for the community, for the youth, for crime, or for property values. The ag tech industry has been active in the last several years in creating innovative technologies to assist farmers with crop selection, rotation, analytics, irrigation, field conditions, reduce spoilage, and enhancing yields. These elements need to be considered, and I can help introduce them to many of these ag tech companies. Over the last 5 years, they've been started, and they're mostly in Silicon Valley. There's also programs that we should consider in conjunction with the high school and with Cal Davis. As you know, Cal Davis has a huge agricultural program, and they could assist in leasing some of the greenhouses, and they could be educational for their students as well as the high school students.
Thank you. And
So I work for the California State Coastal Conservancy, and we have an agricultural preservation program. And that consists of a variety of tools. One of them is conservation easements, so that a state agency or nonprofit acquires an interest over the property that allows the farmer to have tax benefits, but to still continue to farm. There's a variety of grants available, especially under the state's greenhouse gas reduction fund program, that will help farmers conserve their soil, institute measures to use water and energy more efficiently. So basically grants to help offset some of their costs and help them continue to farm. What a lot of cities and counties do is pass right to farm ordinances, so that you can't create a subdivision next to a farm and then allow people to, file claims and sue the farmer for doing what he's supposed to be doing under his zoning, which is farming. That includes buffers and things like that.
okay. As most of you know, on the ballot, there are several ballot measures about the cannabis industry, including one for a cannabis business tax and 3 advisory measures. What is your position on making it legal to grow cannabis or marijuana here? And this time we will start with you.
So I've said, and I stand by it, that whatever the voters signal in November at the ballot box is what I will do. And if there's very close votes on some of those issues, I will support a survey to dig down deeper to find out, what it is, people are trying to say and what they really want. So I don't have a cannabis agenda. I put this on the ballot because I felt it was an important enough community issue to give people the right to have the say in that.
Thank you. Virginia.
As you may know, Calaveras County in Southern California has had marijuana growing for 3 years. They've recently ceased it. Now that's going to create a lot of lawsuits. I'm opposed to all ballot measures regarding growing marijuana. The issue and the impact on our Latino community and youth is dramatic. The Latino community is dead set opposed to it. A lot of their workers are the ones that would be impacted directly. There are cartels that come into the black market. The black market is thriving more than the regular market because of the heavy regulations and taxes that are imposed. Oregon farmers are not making money. The consultant's report done for Half Moon Bay delineated that there would be de minimis dollars in terms of tax revenue to Half Moon Bay. One suggestion was even so far to take any revenues and put it towards drug rehabilitation. And that just breaks my heart, because when you get kids addicted to drugs, it's very difficult to get them off.
Thank you. John.
Well, like I said, I still haven't really figured out what I want to do. I haven't studied as much as Virginia has on the subject of it, but I became an adult in the late 60s.
Well, one initiative I'm very much supportive of is the business tax, because that's a use tax. That means that anything that if people order their marijuana, there's a lot of apps you can get where you can order the marijuana shipped to you. In fact, I'm sure within 2 years it will be available on Amazon. That gets taxed as a product. So yes, if that is sold here, no matter how it's sold, I think we should be able to tax. 100% for that. In terms of cultivation, etc., I'm glad that there are ballot initiatives on the ballot. I think if City Council's decided to put those on the ballot, that even though they're advisory, they have an obligation to follow what voters are voting for and go with what people are voting for. Otherwise, why put it on the ballot in the first place? I think it's political suicide to put it on the ballot, even if it's advisory, and then go against the will of the public. And so I'd like more information. And I believe that if you're not sure, wait.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Deborah.
We had quite a long time to consider this matter over the past couple of months. The farmers are going out of business. They would love to start starter plants, little 4-inch pot plants, non-psychoactive, and ship them out to someplace else to grow mature plants. I have no objection to that. I think that's anything we can do to help our farmers is great. But there was such an outcry from the Latino community that I made the decision that it wasn't up to me. Latino community doesn't want it. They are afraid of it. They're afraid that they'll become a bigger target to ICE. I'm not worried about starting our kids on drugs. We have a drug problem in Half Moon Bay. Most of the kids here smoke marijuana.
Thank you. We pass the mic back down. Staying with the marijuana issue, if Measure GG passes, would you, as a council member, support and implement the decision of the local voters? And this time we will start with Virginia.
Well, it's a good thing I know what Measure GG is, which is the cannabis starts. My view is, I've been a venture capitalist, and corporate money coming in terms of $6 million to revitalize the greenhouses will mean that the local farmers will not own these businesses. Okay, corporate entities will own these farms. There will be de minimis ownership levels for the local farmers. Once that money comes in, they will dictate everything to this community. They will take control. And if they want to expand it, come hell or high water, they will figure out a way to do it and fund it, or we'll be back embroiled in more lawsuits in Half Moon Bay. I don't want to start that. I think we've had enough lawsuits nearly bankrupting Half Moon Bay. We've got another one with Sam. I would just encourage us to think long and hard.
Thank you. John?
Before we act. GG. GG. Yeah, I know. I was finishing my line. Long and hard before we act. You know. No, it's one of those things where if the people vote for it, and if I'm elected, you know, what can you do? I mean, then the city council goes and says, no, we don't care what the people voted for. If the people vote for it, it's already there. And if elected, I would have to go along with it. Even if I didn't like it, I would have to, you know, yep, that's what you gotta do. And yeah, that's all.
Thank you. Robert?
Yeah, if the ballot measure passes, I would, as a city council member, I would go along with that, even though personally I have a lot of reservations. I don't think starter plant cultivation is going to save agriculture for the agricultural character of Half Moon Bay. It's a couple of greenhouses, you know, 4 or 5 greenhouses, and 4 or 5 folks who are planning on, you know, starting up that business. I'm also very concerned about, yeah, great, if it's a successful business, who will come in next? Is it a case of, you know, the camel's nose under the tent? There's a lot of questions I'm not sure about. So, but personal reservations aside, yeah, I would go with how voters vote on it.
Thank you. Deborah?
Yeah, I have to disagree with Virginia. Farmer John is not a venture capitalist. Farmer John would like to grow starter plants. Farmer John has been here forever. He grows pumpkins. He grows starter plants for flowers. He grows starter plants for vegetables. If the voters go for it, I'm for it. If the voters against it, I won't go against the voters.
Thank you. Can you pass the mic down? Yes.
Making counters?
No. How about you answer the question? No, we started with Virginia.
Okay, what was the question again?
With that
Oh,
start.
GG. If the voters pass GG, I will implement GG. If the voters pass GG by a tiny, tiny margin, you know, within the margin of error, then I will, you know, support a survey of some kind to dig down further into the community's interest in this. If the voters reject it, I will as well. So I made that commitment already as a city council member, and I'll stand by it.
Our next question is, what can the city do to help alleviate drug use among our youth? And this time we start with John.
Hey man, I'm not really sure. Yeah, well, tell the truth, it's been here since the 60s that I know of. I mean, maybe before me. You know, I guess, you know, maybe the first half and maybe guys, the seniors when I was a freshman, they were in the beer crowd, but then it changed, and it's been here ever since. It's kind of head in the sand if we think it's not here. It's still here. I don't know how much of it a problem is, because I don't have high school age kids or kids that, you know, I've got grandkids now that don't live here. So I'm not sure what the problem is, how big it is, or what, and if it was a problem, a big enough problem, people wanted to, we could make a study, we could try to do something. I don't know what we can do about it. It's been around forever. It'd be hard to stop. but I don't think growing little teeny plants in pots is gonna increase the use of it. And, yeah, that's all. I wouldn't know what else to do about it, you know? Like I say, it's an ongoing thing we've had.
Thank you. Robert?
Well, I know for a fact that there is alcohol and drug abuse, certainly in our high schools. And very often parents are completely unaware of what's going on with their own kids. Having been a parent of teenagers and continuing to have teenagers in my household, I realize it's a constant issue. And I always used to try and help my kids understand the difference between use and abuse. Because you can never really fully stop anyone from using something secretly. That's the reality. So I think we should partner with the Cabrillo School District wherever we can, and the school board to enhance our education. It's very important to bring parents into that cycle so they can know the kind of conversations they should be having at home. It's really all about having conversations with our kids, and that's usually the biggest difference between kids who end up abusing versus maybe just using something.
Deborah?
Yeah, I think working with the school districts is a good thing. They've got some programs going right now, and I think the county has some other programs to help educate kids on the danger of abuse. But I think that if you don't give the kids something to do after school, if you don't give them decent recreational activities, they're going to tend to use drugs. I don't know how to do that except by building a swimming pool, building a recreation center for them, contributing to the Boys and Girls Club and getting them to help us build some more activities centers. And I think that you can't expect kids not to do drugs if that's all there is for them to do. So offer them something else to do with their time.
Thank you. Can we pass the mic back to Virginia?
I'm a positive thinker. I visited the Boys and Girls Club, and I grew up as an athlete and competitive athlete. And to me, I know my brother and sister-in-law instilled in their 3 kids to do sports activities. They weren't the most athletic kids, but they got them in track and field. When you have kids doing athletics and other types of activities, it keeps them occupied, it keeps them thinking about being trim and fit, and tends to keep people off excessive use of alcohol and drugs. I'm also about robotics, anything that's team-oriented, that keeps kids busy and active. I'm also a supporter of the new swimming pool that's been, tried to, get put in the high school. It's just about, I agree with Deborah, it's about keeping kids busy. I visit friends in upstate New York, and when there's no activities and business is shut down, that's where the opioid crisis is thriving. And the more we can do for activities, the better.
Thank you. And yes.
Well, I think it really starts with parenting, in the home. You have to get children, at a young age. So, parents have to teach respect for your body, respect for each other, good eating habits. I think that's where it really starts, is, respecting your temple, if you will. And I think the school district has some parenting programs. There are nonprofits that have parenting programs. Certainly I think the city would be happy to help fund some of those. So that's one level. The high school has a wellness committee and a wellness program, and I laud them for what they're doing. But overall, I think the community needs a culture of wellness too, and that is having parks and recreation and lots of outdoor opportunities, not just to keep people busy, but to instill values that involve recreation their whole life long, right? And it could be team sports, it could be individual, achievement sort of things. But, so it's really a combination of all those things, being a strong community.
Okay, changing gears a bit. What solution do you have for some of the disruptions occurring down at Poplar Beach? As you know, that's a very popular area. They have fireworks, bonfires, trash, and parking all over the neighborhood. How would you help alleviate some of those issues? And this time we start with Robert. If you don't mind passing the microphone.
Well, sometimes it's just a matter of enforcing the laws that are there to, protect our community. So do we have enough folks to go around from, the city, the state parks, to police those areas? Should we have folks once in a while show up on the beaches and maybe give out tickets to people who are littering? This didn't used to be such a big problem, but now it is. There's a lot of folks coming in, because Half Moon Bay has become so popular. So yeah, let's enforce some of those laws. If people are parking illegally, we have meter maids downtown, great. Hire some folks during peak times of usage to, and fund that as a city, to have folks go around ticket folks who are parking illegally, enforce laws about littering, etc., and really ask people, what's the thing? Show up and be kind. That's what we want to have from Bay. So be kind to your neighbors, be kind to us, those who live here, and help us clean up. And perhaps we can make it a polite thing and invite people to do that instead of just enforcing the law.
Thank you. Deborah?
Yeah, I don't have an easy solution to it, but I know that any solution is going to cost money. So I think it's up to the community to decide how important is it to you? How many people in the community are willing to pay for another sheriff? We've only got a certain number of sheriffs. We've only got 1.5 around on evening weekends. That's not a lot of sheriffs. There are a lot of things that go on in our town. Can't be up at Miramar and Surfers Beach and down in Pescadero at the same time. So if the community's willing to spend the money, to have the city spend the money, then the city should spend the money. We should hire more sheriffs.
Thank you. John?
Well, for one thing, isn't there a locked gate at Poplar Street? Why isn't it locked? Lock the gate that's going to keep cars from getting in there at nighttime. But Poplar Street's just been, we've charged money. It's a paid parking lot. People have to pay. And like I said, go down there on Sunday about noon. The outhouses are overflowing. The garbage cans are overflowing. I have talked to the company that cleans the outhouses, and they say the city won't pay them to come down on the weekends and clean them. So we end up with overflowing outhouses. It's disgusting. And then you wonder why people dump garbage on the ground. You got overflowing outhouses. I'm supposed to worry about my, can? Come on, we have to make the place look decent. We're charging them money. Make it right. If we need more city employees, let's hire more city employees. We need more than 4 people out there in the streets doing the work that has to be done. Fixing our street signs, fixing our beaches, all that stuff.
Thank you. Virginia?
Well, this is my neighborhood. It's been and there are numerous folks here from the neighborhood. It's been a big problem for us. The parking in the neighborhood. I'm not sure how many people actually pay to park in that lot. It's an honor system. And I rarely see people go to the machine and pay. So that's a big issue for me right up front. But secondly, I would hire an extra sheriff if that's what it takes on the weekends, because they drive like maniacs up and down Poplar. There's no speed bumps. We need to put in speed bumps. We need to control it. We've got to remember that tourism is one thing, but we also live here. We live in this community, and things that we do for this community also benefit tourists. And I think we need to take control of the situation and monitor it, and let's not let it get further out of control. The fireworks, the fires, the police are down there every weekend at 8, 9, 10 o'clock.
Thank you. Debbie?
So this is just not an easy one. You can eliminate every inconvenience of living in a beach community. Part of the problem we have is that the Coastal Commission will not allow permit parking programs, right? We had it for a while and it didn't work, or people complained and they've removed it. So we can't institute that. I understand from folks who live in the area that the police are doing a better job of getting down there every night and locking the gate. So that seems to be improving there. With the fireworks, people blow them off, then they run, cops come, they're already gone. People come back, blow them off again, they disappear. Don't know how you tackle that one. I want to correct Deborah, we actually have 2.5 sheriffs on in the evenings and on the weekends, so that's one more. We hired a new one in the past year. We could look at hiring more. As you know, the city's looking at a plan for Poplar Street for traffic calming and other improvements, so that's going to help. And I understand that trash pickup is better, and the plan for the gateway down there is going to make it even better with a permanent restroom. So we can do better, no doubt about it, but we will.
Thank you. If you are elected, could you offer details on 2 problems that you could solve? And this time we'll start with Deborah Penrose, way down at the end. 2 problems that you could solve.
Good God. Solve, completely solve. I don't think there's anything I can completely solve. I think I can help to push our city in the correct direction. And I think that I can help people to feel that they are more a part of the city. But I don't know that I can solve any problem all by myself. It's not me solving problems. It's responding to what the city says they want done. And I think I can work on that, and I intend to work on that, and I have been working on that. Affordable housing is the other thing that I've been really working on, intensely working on with the county and with the city here, and I intend to continue working on it. So those are the 2 big issues that I've got in my mind for things that need to be done.
Thank you. Robert, your 2 issues.
Well, it'll be a combined issue, but mostly it's around protecting the environment. I am a zealot about the environment. The proudest endorsement I've gotten for city council is from the Sierra Club. If I'm elected, that Dunes Beach project, it won't happen. I will do everything in my power to keep that project from happening. I'm not particularly thrilled with the folks who are behind that project, and I don't see how having 170 RV spots, I don't want to see it looking like some dystopian version of Pismo Beach. And the dunes will be destroyed. So that's where we make a stand. I want to make a stand that it's not a matter of controlled growth. That's an area where I don't think we should have any growth. We want to protect those beaches, protect the environment, and that goes all up and down the coast. So I think that would, that's something that I think as a city council person I could work on and help solve.
Thank you. John?
Okay, me being good old simple me. Every one of you that lives in Half Moon Bay, I'm assuming you all live in houses, you all have a sewer lateral that goes from your house to the street. The city should take that back and take responsibility for when something goes wrong with it. Say they have $26 million, our money sitting in the bank somewhere, or wherever they hide it, and they should pay to fix your lateral if it breaks. And the sidewalks in front of your houses, in front of your businesses on Main Street, the city should take that back. I keep hearing we're fat now, so the city should start doing some of this stuff. City streets, city sidewalks, city sewers. The city's paid, we have our sewers, we all pay for it into our sewer fund every year. It's on your property tax bill, and the city should use that money to fix the stuff for everybody that lives here. Every single one of you would be affected by it. Thank you.
Thank you. Virginia?
I'm for no new large-scale hotel and RV development. That includes Dunes Beach project. For me, it's about better oversight for repairs and projects that are done. When the streets are paved and there's a ditch, and they just pave right over the ditch and don't stone it and then pave over it, we've wasted money. We've wasted our tax dollars. Those streets are ripped up again in weeks. The other thing I would do is also improve coastal trail maintenance for bikers and walkers, including the public parks. I walk down Seymour Street. There's supposed to be a city park there. Well, it's a weed field because nobody ever made it a park, but they promised those residents that would be a park. So rather than creating new shiny objects, I'm all about let's renovate what we have and let's clean things up.
Thank you. Yes.
So one of the things that the city council has prioritized is upkeep of our public facilities. So that would be sidewalks, streets, parks, that sort of thing. And one of the things that staff is going to be developing is a level of service program. In other words, what degree of service do we want for our facilities? What are we willing to pay for? What staffing is it going to take? And around that, we'll be developing, routine maintenance schedules and managing fixed assets. So that's coming, and our new city manager has a lot of experience with that. We'll be announcing his joining the city tomorrow. The other thing I just want to point out is about parks. So Prop 68 passed, hundreds of millions of dollars for parks. The city now has a parks master plan and has established priorities for park development. Along with our grants writer and our lobbyists, we feel we can get a piece of that action to improve our existing parks, right? There's a pot of money for existing parks.
And it is growing late, so this will be our last question of the night. What one thing uniquely qualifies you to be a Hackman Bay City Council member? And we'll start.
What uniquely qualifies me? Well, I'm a very experienced public servant. So I'm a public servant in my day job too. I work for the state of California. I've served on the city council once before in the 90s, and I'm finishing up another term. So I have experience working with fellow council members, working with regional bodies, working with state legislators and county legislators. I think my experience in this group and possibly larger groups in San Mateo County in terms of public service.
Thank you. Virginia, what uniquely qualifies you?
I have a financial background. For me, it's all about budgets, being a leader, a collaborator, a strategic and creative thinker. I try to evaluate both sides of an issue so that I understand the pros and the cons and actually can argue for either side of an issue. I think that's important in terms of being able to come to conclusions and ensure that when we have services that the city is delivering, that we create milestones along the way. I live near Poplar, and one of the issues for me has been 6 years, and all I could get was a sign that says caution uneven pavement. All it needed to be was repaved instead of patched, and it's like walking on the moon. There's simple things that we can do and get accomplished. So I'm all about deliverables and successful milestones and achieving results.
Thank you. John, what uniquely qualifies you?
I've lived here for 53 years. I've seen the town grow and the way it's growing. And you probably all notice I'm not a real good schmoozer. I don't talk real good. It doesn't come out as well out of me as it does other people. And so I don't sound so hot. Some of the questions I couldn't even answer. But yeah, just my experience of being here and seeing, I see a lot of you people all the time. I'm up and down the streets every day. That's what I do. I drive around the streets of Hackman Bay, have been for 53 years. And that's really all I got going for me. That, and I love this city, and I'll do anything I can to make it right for all of you, and right for everybody else. Thank you.
Thank you. Robert, what uniquely qualifies you?
What uniquely qualifies me is I've spent the last 30 years of my professional life helping organizations be successful, making organizations work from the inside. Started out with Hewlett-Packard, worked with Cisco Systems, eBay, The Gap, BlackBerry, not so successful. But other than that, and the way I've done that is constantly working with stakeholders, finding what the common interests are, and helping in effective decision-making and reaching win-wins.
Thank you. And Deborah?
Yeah, I think it's mostly about my willingness to communicate and to listen. I don't think that, I haven't had experience with business ventures at all. I'm a family physician, I'm a one-on-one, I'm a people person, but I'm much more interested in having a city council that's run by this city, and a city that is inclusive and includes everyone. Our Latino community, our youth, our seniors, everybody.
Thank you. That concludes the question and answer period. Now, each of our 5 candidates will have 2 minutes to make a closing statement. and we will reverse the order that they spoke in at the beginning. So Robert Brownstone will be going first.
I don't need a microphone, I can project.
I think for the TV, I think he preferred you use
Oh,
mine.
shucks, okay.
It was just us, no problem.
Well, first of all, again, I would like to thank everybody for coming here and being willing to listen and asking some great questions. Again, for me, this is what democracy is all about. I actually feel like we actually have some fantastic talent here. So no matter who everyone ends up voting for, I think the city council will be in good hands one way or the other. And I'm happy to see that. One of the reasons I'm running is, I feel I have no special interests. No special interests for backing me. And I feel one of the most important things is having trustworthy leaders in city government. And city government is a complex organization. And I found the best way to be effective in all the organizations I've worked with is to tell people the truth and empower them to make good decisions and to give people as much information as possible. If I'm elected to city council, every meeting's going to begin with just a couple of slides showing, don't forget folks, here's where all the money comes from, here's how we're spending the money, these are the projects, here's the money we have to work with, and educate voters every opportunity to go out in the community, find out what folks in the community are interested in, and get solutions. I love the idea of crowdsourcing solutions, whether it's in person or on the internet. Every time I know we've had these community conversations, people come up with great ideas that we never thought about. So that's what I'm about as a city council person, and making sure as a community we have each other's backs. I'll have your backs, but I want to figure out ways we can all always have each other's backs as neighbors.
Thank you. Next, we'll hear from Deborah Penrose, so right next to you.
Yeah, I'm like a broken record. It's all about communication, it's all about inclusion. I think we've done a great job these past 4 years while I've been on council. I think we've changed the tenor of the way things used to be. It's no longer a closed door. There's no longer an old boys club running things. There's a much more open democratic spirit in our town, and I think I want to continue that. I have great ideas about how to do more housing. I have great ideas about how to help our traffic situation. It's going to take the whole community to come up with some creative ideas to help us to get those things through. But everybody's got to be behind it, and it's got to be something that everybody wants. We've only got so many dollars in the pot, and we've got to figure out how do we prioritize. Where do we spend our money? What do we want to do? How do we get swimming pools built when swimming pools cost a lot of money? Everybody says they want that. How are we going to do it? Is everybody willing to contribute a little bit to that, to make it happen? And I think that by including the community in the discussion is the only way we're going to get things done. We've got to help our kids. We've all got to be working on that. That's it.
Okay, thank you. John Sabo is next.
Yeah, I think it was in 1960. We came out, my dad was in San Francisco on a temporary transfer from Phoenix, Arizona. That's where I was born, and that's where I was living with my parents. I was 9 years old. And he was a temporary transfer to San Francisco. We came down and we had a picnic in Miramar when the road still went through from the Miramar Beach in, all the way to El Granada, and you came out the light. It was still like that. In fact, there was enough room that there was picnic tables and stuff on the ocean side of the road that's now completely gone. We sat there and had a barbecue or a picnic, and me and my little sister thought that was the coolest place in the world. My parents went home and they thought it was cool too. They put a transfer in. He put his permanent transfer in, and we came here in 1964. 64 we lived in South San Francisco. And then next year we moved to Half Bay because we could afford to buy a house here. $12,000 for a 3-bedroom house on Grand Boulevard. And it was the first time I had my own bedroom. Before that was me and my 2 sisters in a 2-bedroom house in Phoenix. Anyway, that's when I came here, and I've loved this city ever since. Everyone else has left. I'm the only one left out of my whole family. Everyone else went away, and it's just me. And speaking of just me, that is my entire campaign. It's just me. I bought a bunch of door hangers, and if you live in Sea Haven, you probably got one on your door, because I've done Sea Haven, I've done my neighborhood, I'll be across to Casa del Mar next, and then I'll be coming down the rest of the place. That's my entire campaign, and all I've got to offer you is me. I love this city, and I want to do right by it. I just see things being done wrong. It should be fixed, and I'd appreciate your vote. And that's really all I got to say. I'm the guy you see on the side of the road just picking up garbage. That's what I do sometimes. I just do it because it's garbage in my city. I want it picked up. I'm the one that I'll be out there doing the first flush, and I'm done. I've got to stop. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you. Now we'll hear from Virginia Turrison.
I'd like to thank everyone for coming. I mean, I think you've all demonstrated by your questions that you are concerned citizens and you care. Every job I've ever had, I've gotten the job done. And the way I do that is with collaboration, and I empower the team that works with me. I don't think you can get anything done on your own. I think it's important to listen to the community, but I also think it's important to prioritize. We cannot do everything that we all want to get done. But I think collectively, if we share with you what the priorities are, what we're attempting to do when, you'll have a better perspective and be happier that we're achieving some goals and making life a little bit better on the coast. We've got a diverse community of seniors, Latinos, youth, homeowners, renters, and we need to take all of those into consideration. And we can do it, but it takes all of us together, working hard, but I'd like to set plans and have city workers accountable, and let's try to achieve some results. And the work that we do, that we have an abundance of third-party contractors, they need oversight because they don't have the loyalty to Half Moon Bay that we do. And they don't have the same care. So we need to make sure that any service provider fulfills the job we hired them to do. And every homeowner is responsible for making sure their property contributes to the overall look and feel and upside potential of Half Moon Bay. Thank you.
Thank you. And Debbie Brother.
I'm going to be brief. I want to first say congratulations and thank you to my fellow candidates for stepping up and participating in the democratic process. You know, it's wonderful stuff, and if you're elected, I think you will have a wonderful time. It's a great community. We have great involved residents, as you know. It's been very fun for me, and I've loved the job. I also want to say thank you to the League of Women Voters and to the Chamber of Commerce for facilitating our democratic process, and for the public for coming out and supporting it. We'd like to see more of you at City Council meetings. We really do want to listen to you. We're your representatives. We're your trustees. So it's really, up to you to bring problems to our attention. And as Virginia said, we have to prioritize those. And as you know, government's not a business. We're about the democratic process. It's messy sometimes, but it's also exciting. And I think while it might take a long time sometime, it actually produces better results in the long term because we understand each other, we know where we want to go. So it's important to elect the right person who can, implement the right solution, but the important thing is to support the democratic process and to stay involved. So thank you for all you do.
And now it's my turn to add my thanks to all of the candidates. Running for office is not an easy thing, but it's what makes democracy work, so thank you. I'd also like to thank the audience for your fabulous questions. I had more than I could ask. Also, I'd like to thank my timekeeper and my ushers. And I want to remind you that your ballots will be arriving in the mail the week of October 8th. San Mateo County is one of the counties under the California Voters' Choice Act where ballots are all mailed in. There are voting centers, however, that are open throughout the county. There are some that will be opening the week of October 8th over at Tower Road and at the County Government Center. Then the last weekend in October, we will have a voting center over at the Emergency Operations Center over on Kelly behind where the sheriff's station is, that you can vote there using either a paper ballot or a voting machine. Okay? Be sure to vote on Election Day. You will be voting for 3 out of these 5 people. There are lots of ballot measures in Half Moon Bay on the ballot as well as one county measure. For more information, you can go to www.votersedge.org, and there's information about candidates and about the measures. And I would like to wish you a very good evening and hand this off to the Chamber of Commerce.
First and foremost, I'd like to thank the candidates. There is a very special passion that a person has to run for a city office, and I think you are all wonderful people for taking that on, and we appreciate it. I would also like to thank you all for coming out. This is brought to you by the Half Moon Bay Coastside Chamber of Commerce and Visitors Bureau, and I will get used to saying that very long title soon. I am the incoming CEO, Crystal and Pete, and I look forward to getting to know and work well with all of you very soon. I would like to thank our moderators, the League of Women Voters of North and Central San Mateo County. They've done a wonderful job. I would like to thank New Leaf Community Market for donating the coffee and cookies. Please take a cookie on your way out. I would like to thank the coverage of this, Pacifica Community Television, and Martin Anaya, and they are going to put this on their website, pacificcoast.tv, and it will be airing at 7 p.m. on Channel 27 on October 6th. And last but not least, I would like to thank our wonderful venue, the Half Moon Bay Library, and they have done so much for us already, and we look forward to working with them in the future, and we hope that you enjoy the library and get a chance to tour it very soon. Have a wonderful night, and thank you very much.
And let's give our candidates